Good afternoon, I'm Drew Holley, CEO and partner with BIS Benefits. We're an insurance agency here in Metro Atlanta where we do employee benefits and commercial insurance. Today, we're going to be talking about group health versus individual health. Before I get our tagline, we are America's most boring podcast. All right, group versus individual health. What are the differences? Well, sometimes I would explain this different if you're an individual or as opposed to an employer, like an HR representative. So let me just talk about it from an HR representative. Let's just say you're a company and you have 10 employees and you're thinking about offering health insurance. And you're like, well, what's the difference between individual and group? Well, all of them have fine print, a deductible, a copay, the doctors that you can go see or not. Traditionally, group, depending on the product, the carrier you pick, is going to have a broader network, more doctors that actually would allow your employees to actually go see. Individual tends to have skinnier network. Okay, now that's a broad. It's not to say that there's certain products in group that could have the same or even less doctors in individual. That can happen, but generally speaking, the IRS and Congress incentivizes employers to offer group, and it becomes tax deductible, and the employees can, pay for their portion with pre-tax dollars. Okay. Structurally, group can be a little bit more easier to administer as opposed to individual, because sometimes individual, if an employer previously tried to say, well, I'll just give you money for your individual plans, the rates are going to be based off the individual ages, which can be a payroll nightmare. Now, the government did say that you as an employer cannot simply hand dollars to your employees to legally go buy individual health insurance. That is illegal. There is an avenue. I like to use the example of an escrow and a mortgage, where you, if you're an employer, can legally give your employees money to buy an individual plan, but it has to be done in an environment like an escrow and a mortgage called an ICRA. But those plan designs and the thought pattern behind that has to be done way early in advance as opposed to maybe group insurance. So generally speaking, the reason why employers offer health insurance to their employees is to attract and retain talent. And generally speaking in the industry, and certainly our opinion at BIS, if you want to attract the best and retain the best talent, it tends to be done more on group insurance as opposed to individuals. And legally, if you can't really go out and give your employees money to buy individual insurance unless you did in the context of an ICRA, which has seen more popularity in the last couple of years, but again, has limitations on the network, has some payroll limitations, also at the time of the year when all those policies renew at the same time of the year in January, and your carrier options and long-term cost and flexibility on the plans where you can control as an employer. You're just not going to see that in individual plans. So I wouldn't say it's a terrible idea for an employer to maybe do an ICRA plan, but there's going to be some unique situations. But if you're an individual listening to this, a deductible is a deductible, a copay is a copay. So it's the fine print in individual plan or group plan of what you have. Just be aware of that the networks tend to be less. Maybe hospitals in Metro Atlanta might have 4 or 5 hospitals. I could see very likely an individual plan might have 3 or 4 of the hospitals where the group could have the 5 or 6. So more to go on to this. If you want, reach out to BIS and we're happy to explain. Thank you.